Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Matthew White, coming to you from Ingram Micro's Business Transformation Center, and I also have a guest here with me today. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Cisco Collab and really digging into the way in which you can use Webex calling for like a basic contact, or I should say call center. But there's some new software coming out soon. So there's a new version of Webex calling that'll allow you to get a little bit more feature capabilities. And we're going to go over that as well. That's coming in calendar year 2024. So you'll get a sneak peek at that. And really, we're going to show you a little bit about the Control Hub, show you a little demo on what you can do with the software itself for calling. And we're going to go ahead and get started. But I'm going to let Kurt introduce himself for everybody and just let you know what Kurt does and what he focuses on and how to contact him.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's Kurt Verpele. I'm a technology consultant here at Ingram Micro. And my primary role is, talk about Collab, talk about the contact center, kind of help our partners and ultimately our end users kind of understand what's out there and how to best use it to, leverage their business needs. And I think this Experience Essentials that is being released by Cisco is actually going to kind of meet that sweet spot somewhere between kind of the enterprise and the small business where I think a lot of our customers play or would like to with contact center. So I think this is good. Yeah, with that said, take it away, Matt.
Thank you. So really, right off the bat, I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to why people look at Cisco over some of the competition. And really what it comes down to is customer experience. They want to make sure that the experience is good. And Cisco really, especially when it comes to calling, can deliver that. We're going to show you some of the features and the way they which deliver that in just a second. But really, these are some numbers that you can kind of throw out there when you're talking to your end customers to help them really understand why a good calling solution is important. Because if you have a subpar solution and people's experiences are bad or they don't have the features that they need, that results in a bad end user experience, bad customer experience, and in the end, it just looks bad at you on you as a company and looks bad from their end look and feel. So like, for example, if I wanted to reach out to a business and I have to reach out to them via chat only and there's no calling options, that could be a bad customer experience. Or maybe they only have calling and no chat. Like we want to make sure that we can have those people contact us the way that works for them and that we're not pigeonholing them into a particular contact avenue. Now, really when it comes down to calling, Cisco's has had two main calling solutions for the cloud for the last couple of years. They have Webex Calling, and then they have Webex Contact Center. So your Webex Calling is going to be your voice queues, agent experience, multi-call window, audio intelligence, and HD audio. So really what that boils down to is if someone wants to contact you via voice, that's the way to do it. Now, with any of the calling licenses, you do get the Webex chat features as well. So if people do want to reach out to you via the Webex app, they can do that as well. Or you can reach out internally to each other via the chat functionality. But if you're wanting to reach out internally via calling, you can do that with Webex Calling or externally as well. Now, the contact center on the flip side of that gave you additional features. And the first one on that list is omni-channel. And that's where I was mentioning people want to reach out to you in other methods other than just calling. Maybe it's via email, maybe it's via the chat functionality, maybe it's via a website. Those are the things that you can integrate into Webex Contact Center, but there's other things as well, like if somebody wants to call into the center and you want to automatically direct them to a certain queue based off of, let's say, an account number or their email address or something like that, you can do that with Contact Center. Versus if you're having somebody call into Webex Calling, they can hit an auto attendant and then they have to pick the choices and where they go from there. So a little bit more manual process on the calling side. Now, Kurt has a lot more experience in the contact center world than I do. I was on the receiving end inside a contact center for a long time, but Kurt managed a contact center. So I was going to want him to kind of talk about some of these features and what ways they help benefit his world.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks, Matt. And I think there's still a lot of really just voice only call centers. I mean, not even contact centers really out there where I think the WebEx calling solution is the right one and it is sufficient. And I think really Cisco particularly has had a really big focus on enterprise contact centers and kind of all the omni-channel bells and whistles, which I think is great. And and the data kind of bears this out that Cisco is really the market leader in that area. But kind of moving downstream into the voice only call center and then kind of an omni-channel, but maybe without some of the AI or really in-depth reporting or some of the robust coaching features that you'll see in enterprise contact centers. I think that's maybe an area where a lot of our customers play. And I know the contact center, or I guess really at the time, the call center that I was kind of a manager of, I mean, it had a couple hundred agents. It was sizable, but still the majority of the interactions were voice and I mean, coaching and some of these kind of advanced features. I mean, these are nice features, but for a lot of them, it wasn't even really something that was required. So um, I think really just kind of my opinion here is that this is really the best and the first time that Cisco, I think, has really focused on kind of an SMB contact center market where it's been price competitive from a voice only standpoint and have some of the more advanced features, the more omni-channel features at a price point that frankly is as good, if not better, than the competitors out there. So I think that's really where this kind of plays, and I think that's an area where Cisco, frankly, maybe hasn't been the market leader, but I think I think this may change that.
Exactly, and I would completely agree with that. I mean, I have a lot of customers out there, especially in the retail space, that they need to have a calling solution that can be delivered to their agents, their managers, particular divisions at the company, things like that. But they don't need that full contact center experience. A lot of people are just reaching out to them via calling, and they don't want to or have the need to manage all those other areas of ways for people to get a hold of them. So for those type of customers, you're wanting a lower cost solution for those people, and really Webex calling can fit that bill.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And often is the case that we kind of talk about again, the massive contact center. And even the biggest contact centers generally start out as small ones. I mean, it's not uncommon. I just had a partner I was talking to that had 600 WebEx licenses, but 10 of them were contact center. I mean, 10, and that's where a lot of times it starts, and being able to kind of get in at an entry level that is both cost effective and then frankly manageable. I mean, this requires a decent amount of effort to manage beyond just regular calling and even kind of some of the WebEx features. So making it cost efficient and manageable as an entry level or kind of a mid-level offering is really what this is about. And so I think that's like I said, I think that's hoping to meet a need that in the past maybe his Cisco hasn't had perhaps the most cost effective offering in that case, and I think this changes now.
And one of the things I'd like to draw attention that you just said was that you might have 600 Webex calling people and only 10 contact center, and you don't have to choose one or the other. Like you can do a large portion of your business on Webex calling and a small portion on contact center if you do have those few people that really need those extra features. You don't have to be all in on one and not the other.
For sure, for sure.
So let's take a look at this new solution that's coming. So pretty much when we're moving over to the cloud, as we've mentioned in this last slide, that there is that price point that people are trying to hit of that lower cost per agent model. And that's why we often look at WebEx calling as that solution. Now, WebEx is actually coming out with a third tier. This is your sneak peek at this new solution that's coming in 2024. Pretty much we're adding some of those omni-channel features into what's called the Essentials tier, and that's going to be a much lower cost tier than the WebEx Contact Center. And this is going to give you things like agent screen pop, so something that pops up automatically when somebody calls in, so you can get more information about that person that's calling you. The professional license, what I was calling professional license is what's tied to this, but the omni-channel piece is really what we're trying to get here, but we're also trying to get more advanced capabilities inside the WebEx app itself instead of having to look at a completely separate app, which is what the WebEx Contact Center is at right now. So when I mentioned lower price, we're talking $30 per user per month for that middle tier now, versus with the higher end contact center, you're talking 70, 80, $90 per user. So this makes it much more affordable to get people more of that call center-esque environment with those extra features that you may want, which may not be on the basic WebEx calling side. So let's take a look at some of these as well. So before we jump into the actual feature list, I did want to call attention to the point that you do need to get authorized to sell any of the licenses across the WebEx portfolio. Really with any of these tiers, the WebEx Basic, Essentials, and WebEx Contact Center, it's just your CSAS authorization. So It's two individuals take and pass an exam. It is a Pearson VUE online exam, so you don't have to go anywhere to actually take it. You can take it right online, and we can help with the funding of that exam. Usually it's $80 per person. Once you go ahead and take that exam and pass it, you can just contact your sales rep with the screenshot that shows that you've actually completed and passed the certification, and then we can reimburse you through a what's the term for that? The credit memos that you can get through Ingram Micro. So just keep that in mind. If you are looking to become CSAS authorized and you're not yet, this is the exam that you do have to take. There is some training that goes before it. It's usually about 16 hours per person, so about 32 hours total that you do have to go through. So just keep that in mind. But once you've completed it, you can sell any of these tiers along with getting access to the NFR program as a reseller. So that gets you some free licenses that you can use internally for either the basic or I'm guessing the essentials as well once that's out. The contact center side, that one does have its own NFR program, but you have to have a specialization in contact center to get that. And that is a higher tier specialization that does require more legwork to actually achieve. So if you do want an NFR in that, you do have to include that next specialization on top of it. But with just the base CSAS, you can sell Webex Contact Center. There's no additional need for the higher end specialization to just sell it. But if you do have just CSAS, you do have to sell Webex deployment from Cisco. So there's additional sales piece on top of just selling Contact Center if you do have that. But with Essentials and Basic, it's just pretty much straight out the gate. You're good with CSAS.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that and say that I and maybe this is common knowledge, but I've had a lot of people recently who were surprised as to frankly how low the barrier to entry in terms of specializations is, in terms of not even really having to have anything special to sell full-blown contact center, as long as you the customer can pay for implementation services. So I think that is a important point that is often not known, that the barrier to entry to sell this has actually come down significantly all the way up to the high-end contact center. So I think that's good news for those people who are thinking about doing it or have been doing it and thinking, oh, it's a heavy lift to do the renewal. That just isn't the case anymore.
Yeah, and if you're selling hardware right now, this is also a quick way to get the specialized pricing on the hardware. So you bring that hardware cost down for your sales as well by getting the specialization. And then if you do have people signing up for basic essentials or Webex Contact Center, that does actually also qualify them for additional discounting as an end customer off of the hardware as well. So there's additional ways to bring that price down on the hardware if you're a hardware only seller right now. So if we're looking at the essential tier, pretty much right now we have the Webex Control Hub. Now, Webex Control Hub, if you've never seen it before, I'm going to show you a little bit more in depth in a second, but this is just a screenshot of what the basic experience looks like. So you kind of jump in there, you'll be able to do some basic troubleshooting, see how your call legs are doing, if calls are dropping, you kind of dig into what the reasoning might be, add your agents, things like that are all done through this one single pane of glass online. So you can be anywhere and manage your contact center, your call center. What they're adding to this is the customer experience piece, which gives you a little bit quicker insights into who your supervisor is, or your supervisors are, your call queues, your agents, all through quick links here, and setting up screen pop and everything can be done right through this tool. Now, the supervisor experience is a new upgrade. So if you just have standard WebEx calling, you can assign certain people as a supervisor, but they have to log into Control Hub and access all the information through there. So it's not right at their fingertips if they're just standardized on the WebEx app and they know it and learned it and are happy with just using that app and they don't want to get into the Control Hub side like the IT admins do. Uh, this is the place that they can go now to get that information on the essentials tier. If you're on the basic WebEx calling, you will have to assign those licenses and have people actually log into the Control Hub app to get access to the users and the call queues and stats and things like that. Now, one of the other things is the agent experience itself. So from the agent side, they can actually see all the queues that they're on, the longest wait time on those queues, how those queues are currently staffed. So they can make educated decisions on their own. Is this a good time to take a bathroom break or go grab lunch if you're not scheduling all those things out for them? Now, really, it comes down to these four things when you're looking at selling like basic WebEx calling or the essentials tier over full contact center is just the ease of selling, the ease of provisioning, really a lot of these come into play with any cloud solution as well, including contact center, like the easy of migration coming from an on-prem solution over the cloud. A lot of people that are using on-prem solutions might have standardized on CUCM from Cisco or Cisco Unified Communication Manager. This will give them an easy migration path to get over to there. Now, if they do also still have service on their on-prem licenses, there are additional programs to help pay for that migration and have to justify the cost of moving. If they are just using perpetual licenses and they don't have any service on those still, then there isn't any additional money associated with that that you can get. But if they do have anything that's currently under subscription, we can help move that subscription over. So as far as Contact Center 3.0, if you do want to go down this Contact Center route, it's just AFlex-3-CC is the top level, where if you're going with the standard calling or the Essentials tier, it's A-Flex-3. So just a quick way of differentiating between those two. Here's some additional resources if you need them. We'll be sending out the slide deck, so if you need any of these additional ones, feel free to reach out to these additional links. So pretty much like the launch frequently asked questions is one of my favorite places to go to get really additional information on it. Now you do have to log in as a reseller, so just make sure you have your CCO and password handy when you do go to log into these. Okay, so let me go ahead and actually stop sharing here for a second. And I am going to share another screen here. Okay. So as a admin in WebEx, this is where you kind of jump to first. So if you click on the Launch My Organization, that'll go into your organization, or if you're managing customers, they'll all show up down here. Now, once you become CSAS authorized, you'll get access to this as part of your NFR, and you can also spin up your own trials here for 30, 60, or 90 days. So this is a good way to give people access to some basic calling capabilities, get them a little bit more familiar with the Cisco solution, see if it works for them, and then turn that into a paid subscription at the end without having to reset up everything for the customer. Now, if I click into Launch My Organization, I can actually see from here that I have the general overview, but if I go into, say, like Analytics, I can see that I have breakouts for all the different solutions. I can also create my own dashboard with the ones that I want most. But let's go ahead and click into calling here. From here, I can see how many call legs are currently going on. It's going to take a minute to load here, but you can see how your quality is doing. So there was 326 call legs. Most of them were good. I had 8 bad ones, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on there. And you can also see over a date range what is happening as well, how many are bad, how many are good. Now this gives me a good quick way to sort and filter based off of a certain time frame if I want. And if you're doing the WebEx suite, which includes the meetings and calling and all that stuff, you can actually reach back all the way back to 365 days, so you can get back a full year. And you can also see things like a room device versus the WebEx app. How are they using it? Because not everybody needs a physical phone anymore. Some people are just working off of a soft client. So if you can see like how many of my soft clients had any issues, so I can see that all of those were good. Where pretty much the room devices is where 7 of my issues came from, and I had 1 on a phone. So it really helps me drill down into what's happening in my center. I can also see by the actual devices themselves, and I can see jitter and how that's happening over the course of the different dates. So as an admin, I can get a better understanding of what's happening in my call center, what could be causing the problems. Now, if I go under detailed call history, this is going to allow me to see how many were internal or outside of my organization to really get a better idea on which numbers were being called. If I had somebody call long distance and I want to pull up the details on what number that was, I can do that through this tab as well. Now, if you are using this as a basic call center, you're probably also going to be setting up call queues, because hunt groups are not the best way to set things up when you're actually trying to do a call center, because people have to sit on hold, and then you want to make sure they get to the right person, and you want to have people situated by like skill levels. All that can be done in basic Webex calling now. So I can see my call queues. I can see how many were answered, how many were abandoned. If anything went into overflows, I can see that here as well. So I just generated some basic information here by calling in a few times, just so you can kind of get an idea of what was happening in the center here. I can also see what queues took the calls and average wait time on those. So in this case, it was 2 seconds over this date range. So pretty quick turnaround time on calls. Now, I can also get access to my call queue agent stats. So if I want to see how a particular agent is doing, if they're answering calls in a timely manner, if I need to set up additional training with them, things like that, I need those resources to be able to take a better look and see how that agent is doing. So I can filter by an agent, what call queue it was coming in on, how many calls he answered, the average talk time they had on that queue. So this is great for historical purposes. But what about live? What about right now? What's happening in my call center? Do I have to put more people on? Do I have to shift them from one queue to another? I can actually get into that via my live queue stats. So right now, nobody's logged into my demo environment, but if they were, you could see the active calls, any calls waiting, calls held, and then by queue. So this is your general, all queues. Down underneath this, I would have all my different queues listed, and I could actually sort by particular extensions, phone numbers, the queue name, things like that, to get a better idea of what's happening in that group. Okay, so that's the analytics part. That's what most people want to know, is can it handle the analytics I need for a basic call center? And I would say yes. Like in most cases, this is pretty much what you need to run your call center. And Kurt, if you want to throw anything else in here about the things that you always looked for, feel free to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think certainly queue time, I mean, available agents, trying to get, I mean, the staffing, trying to match call volume with people who are logged in and available on the phone is always the challenge for any call center, right? So, I mean, this is what you'd need to be able to do real time, and then be able to get historical data, right? And historical data might even mean how at noon, how are we doing at 10 o'clock sort of thing. So being able to pull that sort of report information. But yeah, this is really it. And I know we're going to get to that in a second. So I think
Yep.
that's the second piece of this.
Yep, exactly. And that's where I can jump into my reports tab, and I can actually scroll down here, and there's a calling tab here. And this is where you can get your engagement reports, your detailed call history, detailed report for a particular call queue. I can pull these reports based off of a particular date range that I want, and then export those out to Excel and kind of dig through those a little bit more deeply to see what's happening. Now, one thing that I will say is a little different through the basic Webex calling versus the contact center is these are more of a manual report process. So I can run these, I can customize the templates to make it easier to run, but I do have to log into here and run these when I want. Where with contact center, you can make a more automated schedule for those to run and shoot out an email after they've ran. Things like that can all be done on the contact center side. So contact center can do a little bit more deep reporting, and it can do a little bit more automation to the reporting. But a lot of the key pieces that you are probably looking for from a basic contact center or basic call center are going to be available through this reports tab.
And Matt, do you know, I mean, I know Essentials is still kind of a work in progress, it's not released, but from a report scheduling standpoint, is that something that Essentials does versus Contact Center or Webex Calling?
I haven't heard yet, so
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
haven't
waiting on a
either,
little
and
more
so
detail.
I know we're kind of figuring this out, to some extent as well. But well, to be fair, I had heard that report scheduling was going to be part of it, but I couldn't confirm that, so I didn't know. That's something we'll have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff like I get access to on a beta org side, and you can get access to that as a reseller yourself by just requesting it. But really, this is a good way to find out what's available today, is kind of like what we're covering. But at the same time, we're kind of giving a forward look at what could be available early next year. So really, I don't have any beta access to the new solution yet, to the Essentials tab. So pretty much those screenshots is all I have so far. But once I do have that, I will definitely set up another CVL down the road to talk more in depth on the essentials and give a deeper insight once I have access to it myself.
Yep.
Okay, and then from the user side, I can add additional users here. I can add them by email address, first and last name, and then if you are using single sign-on, you can add that in here too. This does also allow you to tie into like two-factor authentication through like Duo, and it allows you to then make sure that the people that are logging in are the correct people. So they can get a notification on their phone via the Duo app and punch in like a 3-digit PIN to be able to actually access the site or the Webex app itself or things like that. So especially if you have people working remote, two-factor authentication is something that you definitely want to be thinking about. If you are working with any type of government end users or even local schools or colleges, most of those are wanting two-factor authentication nowadays. So that's definitely something to make sure you're adding to your actual quotes as well. And that can be done right through the AFlex 3 top level as well in CCW. Okay, as far as devices, I did mention that you do have access to actual physical devices here as well. And I can add in my physical video devices, but I also have physical phones that I can add in. And these phones can be common area phones or tied to a user. Each user does get 5 devices that they can tie in on the website. So I could have my cell phone as a device, I could have my laptop as a device, and I could have a physical phone. And those are only 3 out of the 5 that I am using up. So usually you don't run into any problem with the number of devices that people need. And let's see here. If I go down to calling on the left-hand side here, if you do decide to use Cisco's PSTN, you can actually purchase numbers directly through Control Hub here as well, and then assign those numbers to different features. So I have a number assigned to me as a user. I have a number assigned to an auto attendant, so when they call the main number, it goes straight through to an auto attendant, and that auto attendant can redirect that to a particular person or a particular call queue. And then I do have voicemail tied in as well. Now, if I was to go underneath my features here, this is where you can see the additional features I have set up. So like the main auto attendant, if I click on that, I can see the main number that is coming in or the internal extension to get there. I can also go underneath my menu here and I can see what the different numbers when you press them do. So transfer to a particular extension, which is my call queue, or transfer to a particular person, all that could be set up through here. And you can even daisy chain these auto attendants. So if I want to be really detailed with my auto attendants, I could have one auto attendant forward to another auto attendant, which forwards to another auto attendant to get to where I need to go. So you can make these really in-depth if you want, or you can have everything kind of accessed through the main auto attendant itself. Now you can also schedule these. So if you're somebody that says, hey, my call center is going to be open from this time, let's say 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, and then after that time it closes down, you can set that up in a schedule. So I can say I'm only open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, Friday, Monday, Thursday, Tuesday and Wednesday, and really just schedule this out and be done. Or I could say, okay, I want to have holiday hours. So certain days were closed because of Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter. I could put those in as well, and that way it closes it down and doesn't work during those times. And I can also actually go in here and create after hours as well or holiday schedule. So let's say after 5 p.m., it goes to only one person or one group. I see this often in healthcare settings where you may have an emergency contact number so that they can reach out to a doctor in the case of an emergency. They can actually you can set that up where during normal business hours, it automatically sends to the front desk. After hours, it goes to an after hours attendant who might be working from home or another office. Okay. So let's actually go back to our features. And this is call queues. So I'm going to quickly show you, I've got 3 set up here, but I'm going to quickly actually just add one more. So you can see what all there is to make a call queue. So all you do is you pick your location, because you can have multiple locations set up with this. I can give it a queue name. So let's just call it a test queue. And then I can either assign it a phone number if I want people to be able to access that call queue directly or just give it an extension, and I have to get to it through an auto attendant. So let's just go 7.1 for a new extension. And then I can pick how many numbers I want to allow in the queue or how many phone calls I want to allow in the queue. So let's just say I want this to be a minimum or a max of 40. And then I pick what I want the call ID look like. So we can just give it a first and last name, a language, location number is all I want to have it come over as. And then here's where I can start looking a little bit deeper. So if you're familiar with hunt groups, these are the main ones that usually people pick from. So you have circular, top down, longest idle. So circular just kind of rotates through everybody. Top down, I create a list of all my attendee or people that are monitoring the calls, and it just does first one, then second one, then third one, but it picks the top one if it can. If that person's busy, it drops to the next one. The longest idle is going to say how long has that person been available, and the person that's the longest been available, it's going to send the call their way. Weighted, you can give people certain capabilities or say that they are more likely to pick up that call. And then simultaneous, sorry, I can pick how those calls are actually delivered to multiple groups. If I want to do skill-based, I can kind of do the same thing, but I can pick these same 3 categories, but I can give people that I add in a particular skill to those, and that way it will deliver it based on the skill that I assign to that individual. So if they're a skill 20 on this particular call queue and a skill 10 on another one, they'll be more likely to pick up this one over another one, if that makes sense. So let's just go with longest idle for now. And then I can pick what happens when the calls get over my 40 or 50 calls that I picked there. And I can transfer it to another number. So maybe it goes to another hunt group or something like that that I want to send it to. I want to send it to a particular person. And then maybe I want to just send it directly to voicemail. And I can do that as well. I can set up just a voicemail for that call queue and just send it directly to voicemail when it gets over a certain level. And then I can enable an overflow after calls wait so many seconds as well. So let's say after, say 100 seconds, then they get a different greeting. So it might say, thank you for holding with us, versus if it's under that amount of time, it might not give them a different greeting. So it might just play music or something like that. And then I can click next. And then this is what happens when they get actually into your queue. Do you always want to play a welcome message saying something like this call may be recorded? Or do you want to just have them go directly into the queue? And then estimated wait message, I can tell them how many minutes they usually have to wait for this. I can announce what position in the queue they're at automatically. And then I can give them things like comfort messages every so many seconds. I notice that a lot of people in their call queues tend to give these way too often. So I like to boost this up a little bit to say like maybe every 2 minutes. And then you can bypass the comfort message when it's less than a certain amount of time if you want. I can give them hold music if I'd like. And then also I can configure whisper message to identify the queue for incoming calls. So when an agent actually gets the call, it'll tell them what queue that's coming from. This works really well when an agent is on multiple queues and they don't want to have to look to see which one it's coming from. They can just hear which queue that's coming in on. And then when I get to this last level, I can pick which agents I actually want to assign to this. So let's go ahead and let's just say I want to assign this demo account, and then I can give it a skill level at which level that should be at. So let's just, 1 is the highest. Let's add another person in here so you can see what it looks like. So I can give them different skills as part of this. So 1, 2, 3, whatever I want to put their skill level at. And then I can also delete them from over on the right-hand side here. And when I'm all done, I click next. It'll ask me to review, make sure all my settings are correct. And then I just move forward from there, and it's created. I'm gonna back out here though, so I don't actually create it. So from here, I can also create the supervisors for a queue so that they can actually see what's happening on that queue and see all the agents that are part of that queue. And I can actually assign the agents from here as well for my queues. Now, You do still have your basic hunt groups, your call park extensions. We can do receptionist client if we wanted to. And sorry, my voice is going just a little bit. Let's see here. So that's pretty much everything in the actual control hub for calling as the basic features. If you do want to get into virtual extensions, this is a good place to create a phone number that you might want to tie in that you have accessing it from some other location. And I can actually create a virtual extension and then also create a voicemail box and actually tie that. So like a voicemail group, tie this into just a voicemail. So that way when it hits an overflow, it goes to this voicemail, which multiple people have access to. Now, again, if any of these features you think are interesting, you want to have a deeper dive discussion about them, see more about how to use them, feel free to set up a call with us here in the B2C. So it's just btc@ingrammicro.com, and we can definitely walk you through that. But the last thing I do want to show you is what it looks like from a actual user's perspective. Okay, so this is another computer I've logged in. So in here from the actual user, I have access to my chats. I can go in and see any phone numbers that were reached out to. I do actually have multiple lines on this user, so I can see which line I want to see. So if somebody is a executive admin and they want to monitor a line for an executive, they can do that in here as well. But the one that I see mostly used for call centers is this queue feature. So in here, I can actually log in and out of the queues. So I can stay signed in. I can put myself in unavailable. If I'm wrapping up some additional notes on the call, I can do that here as well. And then I can allow for people to have access to the queues where they can log in and out of different queues. So now if a call was to come in on security, I wouldn't actually receive it even though I'm available. Or I can make this as the admin, I can say this user does not have the ability to log out of a queue. If they're available, they're going to get this call. And that's why this one's grayed out. So I made that one be one they can't log out of and the other two they could. Or I can make all of these be grayed out and they're just always in all of these queues that they're assigned. So it really allows the admin to be a little bit more creative on how they want to set this up. So say I have a supervisor that could take a call on a particular queue, but I don't want them to always be getting calls on that queue. I could add them to the queue. They could show up here as a particular queue they could be part of, but in reality, most of the time, they're just going to be logged out of that queue itself. So they're just going to come in here and uncheck these boxes, and maybe the only queue that they're logged into is a manager queue. So when somebody needs help from a manager, they dial a number, and that goes through to my longest available manager or something like that. I could set that up. And then they're always having to be part of that one, but they're not part of the standard call queues unless something was to go wrong and they need to jump in and let people know we're setting up callbacks or something like that. That's all available to be done through here. And then once the person's all done for the day, they can just sign out and now they won't be getting calls on any of their queues anymore. So it allows them to quickly and easily get in and out, but maybe they also want to reach out to somebody internally. They can just dial that phone number here or externally through here as long as they have a PSTN connected, and they can actually log in and out of that piece by setting up their call forwarding rules. So if I have do not forward calls, those calls will come through to me. But if I switch this to voicemail, it will automatically send the call to voicemail. So as a user, I have this on my cell phone. It makes it very easy to get business calls wherever I'm at. But I don't want those calls coming through at 9 p.m. at night, so I will just go over here, click my call settings, and change this to voicemail when I'm done at the end of the day, and then all those calls will go through to voicemail automatically. And actually in the voicemail box, I can actually just click on that and get access to my voicemails through here when somebody leaves me a message. So it makes it very easy to access the ones that I missed. If you are part of a voicemail box where it's shared, you don't actually see those in your voicemail list here. You do have to actually call that voicemail box to get access to those. So a little different, but what I have a lot of people do is they set up a email that also gets notified with actually a copy of the voicemail when somebody leaves a voicemail to that voicemail box. So that way all the people can easily see that that voicemail came through, and you can pick how you want to address who handles those through Outlook or through another platform as well. Okay, so Kurt, what did I miss?
Yeah,
What are people looking for in a basic call center that Webex calling doesn't
no,
do?
I think this is good, and I mean, I've felt for a long time this is like the best kept secret in collaboration is that Webex calling does a ton. I mean, everything you talked about really, I see people graduating out of the call center portion of Webex calling when they want omni-channel stuff, and when they're really doing what I would still consider kind of advanced capabilities. I mean, like I said, like coaching or some of the AI features where you're consolidating agent calls or you're identifying customers that are upset or something. I mean, those are pretty kind of advanced, frankly, like enterprise grade features. Really, I think for the vast majority of certainly call centers, this is sufficient. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. I don't think that that's always been something that has been, I don't know, well promoted. So everything you said from a call center standpoint, if you don't need omni-channel, there isn't really any other feature that I think most people would need. I think Webex calling is sufficient, and I think that needs to be one of the messages here is that it does a lot more than I think maybe it looks at first blush.
Yeah, and if you're an MSP and you want to manage those licenses a little bit more, there's opportunities for that as well. Feel free to reach out to us. We can talk you through that sales motion. So there's different routes to market that Cisco has for this. So if the AFlex 3 doesn't meet the needs that you have as a reseller, we have other options as well. So there's a lot of different avenues to sell this, and Cisco's, I guess the way I would describe it is Cisco likes to be a solution for everybody. So there's so many different ways that Cisco allows you to go to market with these products. So reach out to us. We can help guide you to the best solution that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm happy to say that most often when I have those conversations, frankly, the least expensive option is sufficient. I mean, not always, but when people are like, I don't know, it turns out that I think that they're pleasantly surprised with what WebEx calling can do, and now I'm getting more and more conversations about the essentials. And I mean, really, other than kind of the advanced AI and some of the really in-depth reporting, the essentials is going to do most of the stuff that contact center does. And I think that's really going to make it significantly more price competitive for all but really the biggest enterprise contact centers. That's just what I think. I think that that's really going to hit a mark that maybe Cisco hasn't really been the leader in up to this point.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. It's been great having you. And again, reach out to us at btc@ingrammicro.com is the demo environment that I can help you with from. And then we can always pull in Kurt if you want to talk to a technical consultant as well and kind of go from there. So
Sounds
enjoy the
good.
rest of your day and
I think you
see you
got it all,
soon.
Matt. Excellent. All right. See ya.